Hello everyone, Lena here, and I'm hoping that you have had some time off from the stress and drama over what's called the silly season. So as we go into 2018, I think we can safely assume there's going to be more chaos and drama, and it will be my pleasure to bring you my take on that as it unfolds. Today though, I'm trying to get a take on when the next lot of indictments are likely to land and who they could involve. Now, those of you who have been following various tarot readers would be aware that tarot is not necessarily the best medium for getting exact timelines. You'd have to say astrology is stronger and clearer in that regard. I would recommend Denise Siegel. She's a very accomplished astrologer. But I'm going to give it a shot today, and so I'll be asking several questions within this reading. And so I'm going to try and find out what's going to be happening between now and March. So let's see if the cards give us an indication on that. So my first question is, will there be more indictments before March? Are there going to be more indictments before March? More Mueller indictments before March. What's happening with indictments before March? So let's get the first row underway here now. All right, so this is the Chariot, clearly leading off with heading forth, no fear. As we know about Mueller, he not only runs a very tight ship with no leaks, he is a very determined person. So although he's under huge stress and pressure, I'm sure he's going to continue. But also we will see with this card, I think there's a bit of hesitation behind the scenes. Has he got enough to go on? On the one hand, I think the answer is yes, they have been at this 7 months. But these are very laboriously built legal cases. And Mueller, more than anyone, does not want to see any of these cases collapse because there were shortcuts. So he is evaluating, as we speak, the actual material. And as I said in his dedicated reading, he's a very measured individual and he wants to make absolutely sure as he follows the money, it's all sewn up. Coming here is the Queen of Swords, of Justice. So in answer to that question, I feel yes, there will be more indictments before March. He has an excellent team, and I wouldn't be surprised if this, being a female figure, represents one of his female lawyers or a female judge who will be looking at this next round of indictments. So one more card on that, yes. So here again, Wands going forward. This is a more youthful figure than Mueller. So what it represents in this context, my interpretation of it, is going into battle with enough information and ammunition, and it would be one of the younger players involved in his legal team that he has at his disposal. Now, I'm sure there's dozens and dozens of them, but I see this as a younger man, as I saw this as potentially a woman judge. So my next question, on behalf of many of you, I'm sure, is, will Kushner be indicted will Kushner be indicted? Will Kushner be indicted? Let me lay these out. Okay, to be more specific, if we're talking about Kushner being indicted before March, possibly not. He's got the Sun card. At the same time, although the Sun represents good fortune and the sun shining on you, it could also be the sun shining on Kushner. So again, we have to look for context. If we take this next card, the Four of Cups, and if you can see, this figure is pensive, not very happy, also reluctant to look at these cup figures. This is an opportunity or an offer, hand of God, or in this case, hand of MUELLER. If Kushner is going to be indicted fairly soon, he'll be made one sort of offer. I suspect a one-off offer. Basically, tell me about your father-in-law, or it all comes back to you. He's not happy with that offer. Right? Not happy. Doesn't mean he will agree or disagree at this stage, but he could be brought in, and that is the only real figure higher up than him. No, I rest my case. It could also be his brother-in-law. So the offer would be, if I were MUELLER, you have to give us some more on Trump Jr. or Trump himself. So this figure is very compromised at this point. Traditionally, it's interpreted as a re-evaluation of values and things, but this is a very much, in this position, a crunch card for Kushner. The Queen of Pentacles, a very rich woman, will be playing on his conscience with this. I don't think it's Ivanka. This figure has come up before. I suspect it might be his mother, the invisible mother. We hear a lot about his father, but not about his mother. So her morality in relation to Kushner is going to affect his decision. As a mother, I think you could safely assume her advice to him, given that dilemma, is she would want to see her son save himself. So in other words, the wealthy woman who has influence over him is saying, you know what, you don't have a choice. You do have to dob them in. Interesting. Fourth card, Ace of Wands, the Fred Flintstone card, the Phallic card. I think he will do it. I think he will club them, figuratively speaking. That's interesting. So from that, we've got a sense that Kushner would be brought, he's already been brought in for questioning, but this is the next stage. And I do hope the time frame's right before March, please. These legal things play out over years, and let's face it, we're not all that keen to have to keep waiting for the really juicy bits. So I'm going to do another row now. And what this one's about is, will Donald Jr. be indicted? Will Donald Jr. be indicted? Will Donald Jr. be indicted? Well, MUELLER knows where the black money has gone. He's certainly well aware of the money trail. I suspect he's got enough on him about the money, but not necessarily about the other charges. Interesting that with Manafort he went straight for the jugular, which was crimes against America. I think he'd be much more guarded about doing that with the president's son. But this would indicate people working together, moving money around. So the money, this would reinforce that. The Miser's card, money, secrecy about money, money moving between cities. This, the Hermit card, retreat and solitude, but also shining a light. So in this case where it's sitting, shining a light on the secret money hoards. So, Knight of Swords, charging forth. Again, this would indicate to me that he may well be indicted. One interpretation could be the full fury of the Mueller investigation and the sword of justice behind this. But as I've said in other readings, there can be a hastiness to this card, and you would not for 1 minute suggest that Mueller is a hasty or a rushed man. I'm beginning to think, looking at the overall reading, if Kushner is brought in and Donald Trump Jr. are brought in for indictments, this could in fact indicate a rush to dob in each other. So it wasn't my idea, it was his idea. I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for him. He set up the meeting. No, he set up the meeting. I wouldn't have gone to the meeting if he didn't say go to the meeting. To me, looking at it all, this doesn't look like Mueller at all to me. This looks much more like one of the young bucks trying to get out of deep shit, racing to do a deal. Let's just do another outcome card for this. Yeah. Disappointment. Is this disappointment for us that these men aren't indicted quickly or don't get indicted because of other things? Or is it a huge emotional disappointment for them that it's actually come to this? That means we need more cards. Yes, the slave trader, as I've called this figure before, or the person who makes money in their sleep, if you like. They've already set up a way of making money that's so successful it just keeps going. Reminding you, those of you who are learning tarot, there are certain cards that cross over between suits. So if you look here, this is a Cups card. The figure has their back to the emotional stuff. They don't care what happens to the people who work for them or who live in their houses. And it's a linking card to Pentacles, which is about money, because this figure is a merchant trader. So this is what you would call a crossover card in some respects. The Page of Cups, self-delusion. Also doublespeak in a way. Now this would relate to the Knight of Swords. So if these two men, Donald Trump Jr. and Kushner, are racing to place someone else as responsible, not themselves, this card, which is also the card of the young narcissist, about the smooth talker. Now out of these two, I don't know who would be the smoothest talker. Neither of them strike me as being particularly skillful verbally. They've both just inherited money, which is just as well, because if they'd started off at Subway, they'd probably still be at Subway. But also, that's not to put down people who do work for Subway. The point is, these are young scions who have been born into very wealthy families. So they haven't had to work for a living, as this figure suggests. Again, it's a Cups card. It's an emotional card. So for me, it's a bit about, dare I say it, lies. All right, one more outcome. Yes, looking to the past, when things were good. But in this case, it's not just when things were good, looking to the past of when all these activities happened. So I see that, where was the Hermit? Yes, the Hermit card shining a light on their recent past. So this reading, as I kind of suggested at the beginning, you couldn't just leap off your chair in ecstasy and say, yes, all this is coming down, they deserve it, isn't it great? The wheels of justice are rolling along. It's not that clear cut. I think you can be assured that Mueller is working away, beavering away, doing a very thorough job, and that has to happen. So I would say at best there's an indication that one or both of these men will be indicted. And we must also remember, in light of how tarot readings work, much of this may well play out behind the scenes, particularly this dobbing in each other. But just as now with Trump and his legal team, who will do their best to save Flynn, who we were saying is such a good guy, we're now saying he's an evil man. A lot of this will be happening behind the scenes. So to a certain extent, we'll have to wait till March, April to see how this plays out. So, wish I could be more specific, but I don't think all is lost. I don't think they're going to get away scot-free. All right, I'll leave you with that now, and I'll move on to other readings that I'm doing today for you. All the best from down under.